whenever we begin to discuss our plight as Black people, as African people in today's world, whenever we begin to discuss how we are going to solve and address the problems that we are facing, the issues that we are facing, whenever we begin to create and form and engage an analysis of those problems for the sake of finding viable solutions and coming to viable conclusions about the nature of the issues that we are facing, a recurring theme is for someone or some group of people to assert that some aspect of the analysis amounts to the perpetuation of a victim mentality among African people, that we are promoting, perpetuating, advocating, wallowing in this thing called victim mentality, victim syndrome, the victim complex. These are all terminologies that relate to similar or the same thing. All right. And so today we want to explore this concept of the victim mentality and the extent to which it actually applies to our people as African people, as Black people. Who does it apply to? In what ways is this concept used? Who is often labeled with the idea of the victim mentality? And as so labeled, is this an accurate description of self? And that me want to explore today. Yes? I mean, I want to from now. Me come with my big machine. Me come with my dub box full. Say any sound boy I want to test today, click the link and come forward. Me ready for the whole of uno today. The dub box deep. I want you to just know that. So be warned when you click the link. Yes, you are going to witness and or engage in battle today, intellectual battle today. We have to dopey certain things and dopey certain boy. Yeah? And draw for the big dub plate. A sound clash with them on tonight. I want you to know that. So the subject is, do Black people, African people, suffer from a victim mentality? And that me want to know. All right. And anybody, anybody from any perspective on this subject here can feel free to click the link. All right. You know what I'm saying? So even if you agree with my position or disagree with my position, you know what I'm saying, feel free to click the link. Yeah. And if you disagree with my position, just know. So we have dub plate for you. All right. Forewarned is forearmed. Now I just know that. All right. So to begin this conversation, what we are going to do right here now is just engage in defining our terms. I always think it's important to define our terms when we engage a subject such as this. Okay, and to define this concept called of the victim mentality, we are going to consult Wikipedia. Yes, Wikipedia. We are going to consult. Yes, Wikipedia. And I often enjoy Wikipedia for defining terminology such as this. Phenomena such as this. It's not necessarily the best when it comes to all forms of scholarship, but it, generally speaking, when it comes to defining terms, explores different dimensions and permutations of the terminology in question, and sometimes etymology, etc., etc., etc. Okay, and so I find it useful for providing comprehensive understanding of a terminology. And so we're gonna read, not the whole thing, but certain aspects of the thing. All right. So first and foremost, victim mentality is an acquired personality trait, okay, in which a person tends to recognize or consider themselves a victim of the negative actions of others, and to behave as if this were the case in the face of contrary evidence of such circumstances. This is very interesting contextualization of this term called the victim mentality. Let me read the first sentence again. Victim mentality is an acquired personality trait. Okay? Let's define personality. Personality is a structure gathering interrelated behavioral, cognitive, and emotional patterns that biological and environmental factors influence. These interrelated patterns are relatively stable over periods, but they change over the entire lifetime. So when we talk about personality, we're talking about structural. Yeah, we're talking about interrelated behavior. We're talking about cognitive patterns and emotional responses to phenomena that are affected and influenced by biological and environmental factors. So victim mentality, yes, is essentially a pattern of behavior, cognitive thought processes, and emotional response. Okay, in which a person tends to recognize or consider themselves a victim of the negative actions of others and to behave as if this were the case in the face of contrary evidence of such circumstances. Victim mentality depends on clear thought processes and attribution. That means you know who to blame, who is responsible, yeah, or seemingly or supposedly responsible for your state of victimhood. In some cases, those with a victim mentality have in fact been the victim of wrongdoing by others or have otherwise suffered misfortune through no fault of their own. However, such misfortune does not necessarily imply that one will respond by developing a pervasive and universal victim mentality where one frequently constantly perceives oneself as a victim. So that's important, right? There's a I'm gonna come back to what I'm about to say when I get to the foundations. Yeah, the term is also used in reference to the tendency of blaming one's misfortune on somebody else's misdeeds, which is also referred to as victimism. Victim mentality is primarily developed, for example, from family members and situations during childhood. Similarly, criminals often engage in victim thinking. It's a very interesting thing right here. This terminology right here. This sentence here. Criminals often, that means people who are responsible for making other people victims of their behavior often engage in making themselves victims, conceptually speaking. All right, believing themselves to be moral and engaging in crime only as a reaction to the immoral world, and furthermore feeling that authorities are unfairly singling them out for persecution. That's how criminals engage in victimhood. Now listen carefully now, because the question then becomes: is the idea of victim, yeah, legitimate, right? So there's victim mentality on the one hand, but if is victim mentality the same as actually being a victim, or is there a difference between those two things? Yeah, and I think that this next section might help us to explore that, right? So there is something called a victim. In the most general sense, a victim is anyone who experiences injury, loss, or misfortune as a result of some event or series of events. Yeah, that's a victim. All right. So I think we can generally, yeah, presume and take it for granted that there are victims in life. Okay, that there are people who have suffered injury, experienced injury, loss, or misfortune as a result of some event or series of events. Yeah. So victims, that seems to be a legitimate category. Yes. All right. Of social designation. All right. People that have experienced loss, injury, misfortune as a result of events or series of events. This negative experience, however, is insufficient for the emergence of the sense of victimhoods. Individuals may identify as a victim if they believe that they were harmed. They were not the cause of the occurrence of the harmful act. They were under no obligation to prevent the harm. The harm constituted an injustice in that it violated their rights if inflicted by a person, or they possessed qualities, e.g., strength or goodness of character, making them persons whom that harm did not befit. They deserve sympathy. So all of these bullet points relate to the state of being a victim, not the state of being in a victim mentality. The desire for empathy is crucial in that the mere experience of a harmful event is not enough for the emergence of the sense of being a victim. In order to have this sense, there is the need to perceive the harm as undeserved, unjust, immoral, an act that could not be prevented by the victim. The need to obtain empathy and understanding can then emerge. Individuals harboring a victim mentality would believe that their lives are a series of challenges directly aimed at them. Most aspects of life are negative and beyond their control. Because of the challenges in their lives, they deserve sympathy. As they have little power to change things, little action should be taken to improve their problems. Victim mentality is often the product of violence. Those who have it usually had an experience of crisis or trauma at its root. This is a very important point. Yeah, that people who experience violence can often enter a victim mentality, which would, as it relates to things like trauma, make it a mental health problem, a mental health issue. Okay, all right. So beyond now just the labeling, if this is indeed in any way relevant to us as Black African people, how should we address the victim mentality? That then becomes the important question. In essence, it is a method of avoiding responsibility and criticism, receiving attention and compassion, and evading feelings of genuine anger. All right. So, based upon this, when I go read the whole, okay, you can see the page long. Yeah. So when I go read this whole thing, yeah, maybe we'll come back to it. Brothers and sisters, yeah, can feel, if they feel necessary, can go and find this Wikipedia page. Yeah. Oh, in fact, let me read this section actually, because it might help. Yeah. All right. It has been typically characterized by attitudes of pessimism, self-pity, and repressed anger. People with victim mentality may develop convincing and sophisticated explanations in support of such ideas, which they then use to explain to themselves and others of their situation. People with victim mentality may also be generally exhibiting a general tendency of realistically perceive a situation, yet may lack an awareness or curiosity about the root or actual powerlessness of the situation. Introspective, likely to display entitlement and selfishness, defensiveness in conversation, reading a negative intention into a neutral question and reacting with corresponding accusation, hindering collective solution of problems by recognizing the inherent conflict. Characterizing, tending to divide people into good and bad with no gray zone between them. Unadventurous, generally unwilling to take even a small calculated risk, exaggerating the importance or likelihood of possible negative outcomes, exhibiting learned helpfulness, underestimating one's ability to or influence in a given situation, feeling powerless, self-abasing, putting oneself down even further than others do. Okay, so those are just a few, characteristics of victim mentality. Yeah. Now, I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna open up the line. The first thing I like to do is outline, in my experience, when I see this idea of victim mentality brought up in relation to Black people, in relation to African people as a collective. Whenever we begin to discuss the problems, the issues, faced by African people, and we begin to form an analysis and we begin to talk about, Western imperialism, the system of global white supremacy, the Ma'afa, the invasion, conquest, colonization, enslavement, neocolonization of our land, our nations, and our people. The mere identification of these forces, the mere discussion of the robbing, the raping, the genocide, the pillaging that has been perpetrated against African people, simply the idea of referencing the reality of those facts is labeled a victim mentality. Yes? That's my experience. All right? That's my experience. Ones and ones are welcome to come and affirm my experience or challenge it as and where the case may be. Yeah? And I'm also, the second thing I'm going to do, yeah, is give my diagnosis, yes, of this, of those who actually are responsible for levying this charge of victim mentality against those who dare to speak about Western imperialism, the system of global white supremacy, colonization, neocolonialism, etc., etc., etc. The people who charge others in the African community, in the global African community, yeah, with suffering from a victim mentality are in fact suffering from a syndrome known as cowardice. What I am saying is the people who, especially within the African community, people of African descent, who label other African people as promoting and projecting and engaged in victim mentality are in fact cowards. That is what I'm saying. Me nah beg no friend, me nah take back no talk. Who want vex, vex. All right? And why they are cowards, yes, the whole I uno is coward, is because instead of confronting the reality of these systems and that history, you all seek to deny it, yes, because you are too afraid to confront it. And so instead of accepting your cowardice syndrome, you want to project onto other people with this fallacy for the most part. I'm sure it exists some way, shape, or form, this victim mentality. I'm sure somewhere about the place it exists. But in relation to what I'm talking about, for the most part, I'm saying it's a fallacy. It's a mischaracterization. It's misdirection. It's deliberate deception designed to mask the syndrome of cowardice that exists in the mentality of those who promote the myth of the victim mentality. But there's another side to this cowardice. The other side to this cowardice is that there are those among us, and they are increasing in number, who promote the idea of victim mentality because they are in fact pledging their allegiance to the systems of Western imperialism, the system of global white supremacy, colonization, and neocolonization. And so they project the myth of victim mentality because they consider themselves, they understand their role as the first line of defense for white people, the white man, just in case. And in the face of the inevitable awareness of African people about these systems, their intentions, and what they produce, there are some people who have decided to cast their lot with the colonizer. And because of this, they act as the first line of defense for the colonizer against other Africans who would seek to identify the colonizer as a colonizer and challenge his colonizing ways. And so the mere identification of the colonizer as the colonizer needs to be challenged, needs to be shut down, needs to be ridiculed, needs to be caricatured, needs to be mocked, in order to dissuade other African people from identifying the colonizer as the colonizer and seeking to organize to end the colonizer's regime. That me I say tonight. That is my opening statement. Anybody want test? Click the link. I dare you this evening. Click the link and come through for come test anything we say a while ago. And if you agree with me, you can come through and affirm what I say as well. I'm going to bring through the panel right about now. We have a few brothers and sisters in the back here. I'm going to, as always, bring it through in order of appearance. So greetings, Set Imhotep, Mr. IC3, and Angelo Hart. Greetings to you all. You know what I'm saying? You're there. So yeah, man, you know, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm in battle mode today, yeah? We're going to war, yeah? With this idea of the so-called victim mentality. So we're ready for Duppy. Any boy we step forward, I want come bring with victim mentality argument. But I want no whole I know. I'm ready for no whole I know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
All right. So got you Set Imhotep.